Hi, I'm Mel Gadd. I'm director of Come the Addis Crew, sex education company, and I'm a relationships and sex educator.
I'm Neve, I'm the Vice President for Sport.
And I'm Ivy, and I'm a social media creator.
And today we're going to be answering some sex and relationship questions. How do you deal with varying sex drives in a relationship?
Well, with many things in relationships, it's about communication and it's about sharing how you feel and then also being honest about your needs. So varying sex drives is a really common situation in relationships. If you read any Agony Aunt column throughout the ages, this is something that's come up. To a certain extent, you can deal with varying sex drives by the partner who's got the increased sex drive masturbating and taking care of their own needs, reducing stigma around masturbation within the relationship. But there's also about thinking about everything that you do between times you have sex as being foreplay, so that you increase communication, you increase connection, you increase desire between the partners, and then they might align a bit more.
Another one is, how does one tell that their partner wants to explore more, or how do you tell your partner that you want to explore more?
Again, it's about communication and it's about honesty. And so if one partner wants to explore new things but they're not sure how to bring it up with their partner, it's about introducing conversations when there is no pressure. So, when you're getting it on in the bedroom, introducing something that might feel a bit pressured and might not be the time to introduce it. But while you're on a walk together or out in a drive, something like that, where there isn't the pressure to engage in the activity and you can explore how you feel in a safe space, that maybe might be the time to bring it up. Also, you might have a whole list of new things that you want to try. Don't bring up the whole list at once. Bring up one thing at once. I would like to try this. Is there anything you would like to try? A bit of give and take, communication, compromise.
A list sounds very intimidating.
Yeah, it can be a list. There are actually different tools online where you can create. You can do an audit of your sexual desires and then take note of things that might turn you on, things you definitely would do, things you might be willing to experiment in the right situation, and things you would never do. And you can have a conversation with your partner and set hard boundaries. But it's about communication, it's about feeling safe, and it's about trust as well with that person.
What should you do if you can't get it up?
So I think worries about erections are quite common. It's quite normal for most men not to be able to get erections at some point in their life. However, if you repeatedly have erectile dysfunction, either you can't get an erection or your erection goes away before you're ready for it to go reduce, and you've got severe worries about it, then go and see a doctor. There are things people can do, and it might be a sign of underlying medical conditions, so get it seen to.
How does one consent to BDSM?
Right. BDSM, so bondage, sadomasochism. I think that's the whole thing of it, bondage, sadomasochism. So the law has changed quite recently in the fact that you can't legally consent to anything that seriously harms or kills you. And this has meant that, whereas previously people have tried to use the rough sex gone wrong defence if somebody's got seriously hurt or died during sexual activity, like engaging in activities like strangulation, that's no longer a defence. So you can't consent to anything that seriously harms you. But if you're being seriously harmed during sex, that's not a consensual activity. BDSM is usually all about communication and very sensible discussions about consent, how you show it, how you withdraw it, how you ask somebody to stop what they're doing. It's the use of safe words, it's the use of agreed sexual activities before you start, and what you're willing and not willing to do. There may be some physical discomfort within that, like slapping and hitting with a paddle, whips, that sort of thing, but they're not usually to the extent that they cause somebody serious harm. So yes, you can consent to those activities, and good BDSM practiced properly only do that sort of activity with somebody you feel safe with and somebody you know will stop the activity when you use a safe word or ask them to stop.
How does scissoring work?
How does scissoring work? Well, scissoring is an activity where two people intertwine their legs with each other and then rub their genitals against each other. So it stimulates genitals, it's quite pleasurable. It's commonly thought of as an activity that women who have sex with women will do because they can rub their vulvas and clitorises together. But really, it doesn't really matter what bits you've got, you can still take part in that activity.
How do you maintain a healthy long-distance relationship?
Well, I think it's about having the will to do it. If you're both committed to the relationship working, you'll find ways to make that work. Again, communication, setting boundaries. Is your relationship exclusive or is it open? When you're going to see each other, activities you're going to do when you get together, and then you might, if you are sexual partners, you might engage in like phone sex and online sex and things like that, so you can sort of keep the fire alive while you're apart. But it can work, but it's about going into it with eyes open.
I think the antithesis to that question is how to best get over a breakup.
Keep busy. Yeah, getting over a relationship's really hard, and I think sometimes with getting over relationships, especially if they are more short-term than others, people don't give it the weight it deserves. Breaking up with somebody, getting over a relationship is grief, and you go through all the same grief that you get when you lose anything else in your life. So it's acknowledging that, allowing yourself to feel sad and move through that process, talk to people, seek support if you need it, but then also keep active, keep busy, and that really helps people heal. And you know, be social, get out there, don't let it ruin your trust with other human connections, that sort of thing. I would say don't jump into a new relationship straight away, because that's not giving that other person what they need, because you're just using them to replace somebody you've lost. A relationship about mutual respect, and that's not a very respectful thing to do for somebody else or yourself. Yeah.
How do you feel comfortable enough for a partner to have sex?
Okay, that's a really difficult question to ask, isn't it? Because it's down to each individual how they feel. You hear lots of stuff from TV and film about the way the relationship should be, you know, you fall in love and all this. But really, being comfortable with somebody enough to have sex with them is really about trust. Do you feel safe with them? Do you trust them? Do you trust them to stop when you ask them to, or if you ask them to? And do you fancy them? Do they turn you on? Mm-hmm. You know, as long as you've got the trust and the safety and the sexual desire, and you want to have sex with them and they want to have sex with you, then it's your decision. Yeah.
I'm really comfortable with my partner, but I cry after sex. Why?
Crying after sex. Yeah, it happens. Sex is a really emotional activity, and it can open up lots of emotional pathways for people. So people can cry, they can laugh, they might just want quiet time, all sorts of different feelings for different people. I think if you cry after sex, just let it out, it's better than bottling it up. But if it's something you're genuinely worried about, then maybe go and speak to a counsellor who's used to dealing with sexual issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What constitutes a healthy relationship, and what are the signs of a bad one?
Well, the relationships are enhanced friendships, really. So it's all the same things that you would get in a good friendship. So it's connection, it's trust, it's communication, enjoying spending time together, having a laugh with each other, maybe having similar interests, but then also allowing each other some space and time to do other things as well. So these are all things you'd see in a healthy relationship and a healthy friendship. And then conversely, bad relationships are like bad friendships. It's when somebody makes the situation all about them. It's when you don't really trust them and you don't feel safe with them, when you don't communicate with them and they don't communicate with you. They might be mean to you and abusive. They might be coercive, and they might ignore you, like when you're out with groups of people. So anything that you see would not be okay in a friendship is not okay in a relationship, and vice versa.
Thanks. There's one more
Mm-hmm.
on this list. If you're in a monogamous relationship, should you get regular STI tests?
Well, that's a good question. So STI testing is a really good thing. But if you're in a monogamous relationship, are you likely to catch an STI? You've got to think about your relationship in different stages. So you had your life before you have that relationship. Were you sexually active with anybody else? Do you need to get an STI test before you have sex with a new person? That's probably a big old yes. And then if they've had an STI test before they get together with you as well, and you've both been given the all clear, and then you don't have sexual activity with anybody else while you're in a relationship, then you don't need to have a regular STI test. It's only then if you get a new partner, or if you have an open relationship where you have other partners involved, then you would need to get new tests. So it's just thinking about where an infection might have come from and making sure you get tested if there's a possibility of an infection being introduced at any point. But it's worth bearing in mind that just because you're in a monogamous relationship, if you do get any symptoms that you think might be an STI, it is worth getting a test, because it's not unknown for people to find out that their partner was unfaithful by the fact that they've caught an STI of their partner. So
Unfortunate way to find out.
it's a really horrible way to find out, but it does happen. So never rule it out. If you've got any symptoms, just get a test. Yeah.
This is my last one. Why can't some women come with just their partners?
Okay, so orgasms are very tricky things, especially for women. There is quite a big orgasm gap for men and women. Men's anatomy makes it easier for them to have orgasms because their glands is at the end of their penis, whereas for women, their clitoris, which is where they get most of their sexual pleasure from, is actually slightly separate from their vagina. So up to about 80% of women won't experience an orgasm just from vaginal stimulation from penetrative sex, and they will usually need some clitoral stimulation as well. Now, the clitoris is something that's been better understood, and we now know that the clitoris that you see on the vulva is just the glands of the clitoris rather like the glands of the penis. So it's just like the end of the clitoris, and the rest of the clitoris is internal, and it does wrap round the vaginal walls. So people who do experience vaginal orgasms, it's because the clitoris has been stimulated internally. So it's still a clitoral orgasm, it's just stimulated internally in the vagina. So it's just about taking the time as well to make sure that you're properly aroused, and that gives you a much better chance of having an orgasm.
Well, that's the end of our relationship themed questions for this section of the Q&A.